Valentine's Day. Thank you, David, for inviting me to present this award. It's really great to be here. As Richard Alexander said earlier, there's been a real evolution of this meeting, and I think this is just another testament to the evolution that has. Wait a minute.
She's gonna drink
that has come. And I think it's just great to be honoring patient advocates. They are so important to our efforts to education, to funding research, to keeping the physicians and providers who take care of them motivated, and just remind us the real meaning of why we do what we do. I think naming this after Gabriella, for all the reasons that David mentioned, is just absolutely perfect. I know that when I had new patients in the clinic, and I could tell who's been on the internet, and it's pretty scary when you've been out there. And I'm sure a lot of people here who take care of patients, they recognize that the eyes are as big as $50, so they've been reading about appendiceal cancer, and I would always refer them to a couple of websites. One of them was the PMPRF, and I would tell the patients that if you emailed Gabriella, I would tell them she lives in California, but if you email her, she will reply to you before you hit send. That's exactly the way she was. I think she was up 24 hours a day reading emails and getting back to people as quickly as she possibly could. She didn't want anybody to worry a minute longer than they had to. And it's great to have Adele Jason here and Beverly Miller here tonight, honoring her legacy. And representing the PMPRF organization, and they want to keep it alive and going in some form. They're partnering, thinking about partnering with another group called pseudomyxomasurvivor.org, which is based in England, and also starting to work with the PMPRF Foundation. Which brings me actually to tonight's recipient of the first Gabriella Graham Patient Advocacy Award. And this year's award, the very first one, is going to Mr. Jerry Lewandowski. If any of you... If any of you haven't had worked with appendiceal patients and haven't had a chance to meet Jerry, I hope that you will, as well as his lovely wife Carolyn, who accompanies him to all these meetings and all these efforts. So Jerry is the current president of the PMP Research Foundation. This foundation was originally founded in 2008 by a woman by the name of Lisa Luciano, who was diagnosed with appendiceal cancer. Jerry took it over in 2011. I know he is an incredibly humble man, and he will not stand up here and accept the award by himself. As I mentioned, his wife Carolyn has been at his side through all these efforts that the PMP Research Foundation has put forward. He would also recognize Judy Culbertson and her husband, Dutch, who had passed away from appendiceal cancer. He would recognize Jim Carroll, who was Dutch's best friend, and I'm sure he will recognize a number of other people because, as I mentioned, he will not take the credit for all of this himself. But if you stop and think about it, Jerry is the absolute expert on appendiceal cancer and HIPEC in this room, bar none, because he himself is an appendiceal cancer survivor. He was diagnosed 7 years ago. He's a patient of Dr. Sardi, and he has been through 3 HIPECs. So if anybody can tell you about HIPEC, it will be Jerry. And just a little bit about the PMP Research Foundation. Again, it's been around since 2008, and over that 7-year period, they have raised over $750,000, which they have donated in research, provided for research funding, and over 50% of the research that they have funded has been given to people in this audience. They also are very focused on education and awareness, and have sponsored a number of appendiceal cancer and PMP symposiums, including 4 of them that we've had up at the University of Massachusetts where I practice. They've been a great success. We have focused mainly on providing information to patients and families. They love it. We're also interested in providing information to other providers so that patients with appendiceal cancer will be referred as early and as quickly as possible. And they've also funded a number of traveling scholarships to the peritoneal carcinomatosis workshop as well as to this meeting. And so, without any further ado, I'd like to invite Jerry to come up and receive this award.